Call to order. The reconvened meeting from June 19th of the Winthrop Town Council. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Boncory, would you lead us, please?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilor Ingman. Here. Councilor Callum. Present. Councilor Christopher. Councilor Thierry. Here. Councilor Soto.
Here.
Councilor McDuffie.
Here.
Councilor Conti. Vice President Boncory.
Here.
President Beckill.
Yep.
Thank you.
Under new business, new appointments and reappointments. Let's see. Do I have to give you the gavel on this? What can I do? The appointments. Yeah. All right. Town Council accept the reappointment of Pasquale DeFeo Jr. and Michael Aboud as constables for the town of Winthrop, made by the Town Council President, and take any action thereto. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. That the council accept the new and reappointments made by Town Council President Becker to the following policymaking committees, or take any action thereto. And I'd like to take them with a list that's going to be read by the clerk.
Policy Making, 2018 to 2021 committee members. Board of Appeals, Darren Baird, Fred Gutierrez, Tom Chudia. Board of Assessors, Alan Maruzzi, Diane Mackin. Board of Health, William Schmidt, Susan McGuire. Board of License, Nicholas Bracy, Richard Ackerman. Board of Registrar of Voters, Claire Hubbard, James Gallagher, who will be a new appointment. Conservation Committee, Mary Kelly, Brian Corbett, Michael Rinaldi, Melissa Kaiser. Historical Committee, Robert Gillis. Planning Board, Anna Mercer, Davis Proctor, Robbie Carroll, Christopher Boyce. Winthrop Commissions on Disability, Patricia Tiselli, Kathleen Kane.
I second that motion for all of them.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Just one
I'm sorry.
piece there. For the new people who are being appointed to the committees, will they be doing the training with Denise as well?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
So it's been seconded. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. That the Town Council accept the reappointment of Fred Gutierrez, made by the Town Council President to the Board of Appeals as an associate member, or take any other action thereto.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The Town Council accept the reappointment of Thomas Chiuda. What is it? How do you say it? Judea. Town Council President to the Board of Appeals as a full member, or take any other action thereto.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The council accept the new and reappointments made by Town Council President to the following non-policy making committees, or take any action thereto. Council Clerk will read.
Non-policy making committees, Beautification Committee, Janice Pomeroy, Ed Sambella, Ken Goodwin, Mary Rutzer. Citizens Advisory Committee on Finance, Robert Wynn Jr., Barbara Flavin. Council on Aging, Nancy McHugh, Teresa Cronin, Mary Vitale, Barry Yaffe. Harbor Management Committee, Elizabeth Gahan, Alan Shore, Daniel Raymond, Don Quirk. Memorials Committee, Richard Gay, Mary Lou Osborne. Parks Committee, Nicole Batcher. She will be a new appointment. Scholarship Committee, Mary Lou Osborne, Alan Murphy, Matthew Serino. Transportation Committee, Julia Wallace, Christopher Aiello, Jerome Falbo, Charles Southworth. Tree Committee, Daniel Hibbard, Janice Stevens, Marie Wynn. Winthrop Commission on Disabilities, Patricia Tiselli, Kathleen Kane, Jonathan Rodas. Winthrop Cultural Council, Guy Hillman, Marianne Salsa.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, I'll call on Counselor Engman.
Sure. The employment attorney, or are we
Yes.
doing the Rule 2A?
We
We
already
already
did
did that.
We already
Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the
What-
agenda from last
When
time.
is the date?
So I'll read my motion again if that's what is appropriate. A few weeks ago, the town council issued a statement declaring that it is committed to ensuring a thorough review of existing employment policies takes place by outside advisors to determine if there are things we can or ought to do better as an employer. And so to that end, and separate and apart from any existing litigation, I move that the town retain an attorney who specializes in employment law to implement a risk management plan that includes, but is not limited to, a review of existing policies and practices, updates to written policies as appropriate, ongoing training at least 4 times per year for all managers and department heads, and unlimited legal advice on day-to-day employment and personnel matters, excluding litigation, for a flat monthly fee. The purpose of the risk management plan shall be to implement best practices in the area of employment law in order to avoid future complaints, lawsuits, and unplanned legal fees. The attorney and his or her firm shall specialize in employment law and shall be different than the town's existing counsel. And part 2 is that in order to identify the most appropriate attorney and or firm to implement the risk management plan, the town manager shall evaluate at least 5 attorneys or firms who would satisfy the aforementioned criteria and report back to the council at the next meeting with options. The evaluation shall include costs, experience and qualification, and scope of services, and the council shall oversee the town's selection of the outside employment attorney.
A motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion on the motion, but I'll open it up to the town manager first.
I had mentioned this to Councilor Engman at your last meeting, this continuation of this, that I had a concern with this motion, not in the sense of setting forth some type of review and setting up a program, but that the attorney shall be different from the existing town council, and that the council shall oversee the selection of the outside attorney. That really falls in conflict with the town's charter. The town's charter gives the authority to retain counsel upon the town manager as part of the administrative functions of the town. Not only delegates the authority for town attorneys on the town manager pursuant to Section 10-5P and Section 4-2P, but is also clearly states that the council as the legislative branch shall not perform any administrative functions. This is from our town council attorney, Randazzo. I can go on to read, but the gist of it is that council does not get involved in that selection of attorneys. So
It's very clear, when we wrote the charter was written that the town council cannot tell the town manager who to hire or who to fire in any situation, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a department head. We can reject 1 or 2 of the department heads by a majority vote or a supermajority vote, but we can't tell him who to hire or fire. And even if we rejected someone, we can't suggest another one. He has to come up with another. So I think that the motion
Would you
should
be
be out of
willing
order.
to maybe modify, instead of a motion, to direct the town manager, maybe some type of a memo to outline your concerns?
Perhaps. Let me explain a little bit more of my thinking here.
I mean, I think I know exactly the spirit of the motion, and I understand it for what we've been all going through in the last couple of months. I totally understand it. But I think, it's cut and dry as far as the legalities of whether we can make this motion pass.
Well, I disagree a little bit, and I would like to be able to
Okay.
explain my rationale.
Please do.
The town the town needs to implement a risk management plan with regard to employment and personnel matters. I think that much is clear. The town charter is also very clear that it is the council that is responsible for supervising the work of the town manager. Ultimately, it's the council that's held accountable for how the town is performing. My professional opinion is that the town's current approach to obtaining legal advice on employment and personnel matters is not working as it should. I am not convinced that that the previous town manager, I know that you've just stepped into this role, but I'm not convinced that the previous town manager had been taking advantage of legal advice on employment matters as would have been helpful. And I think there probably is a certain level of barrier to our department heads reaching out to legal counsel because we're paying on an hourly basis. I have done some research on options that are available for providing legal advice, for the town obtaining legal advice in a slightly different manner. One of those, I came across one firm that will provide unlimited legal advice for a flat monthly fee. And the price is dependent on how many employees are in the town. And I think an arrangement like that eliminates some of the concern about costs, about picking up the phone and getting the advice when the town needs to get the advice. So I think there are some arrangements that are different than what we have now that need to be explored so we can get a risk management plan in place, and do a better job. I think that I understand the argument about the charter. I have read the charter too. I personally don't think it is that cut and dry. I think where we have a special situation like this, the town council should be involved in who we're selecting to represent the town. And I'm thinking back to other interviews I've been involved with in the last couple of years on the council, selecting a landscape architect firm or interviewing firms that might provide marketing services for the town. And you look at something like employment legal advice, and that is much more significant than selecting a landscape architect. So I don't understand why the council wouldn't want to be involved in that decision, or why we wouldn't feel some responsibility to oversee that. So that's where I'm coming from, and I think we have an urgent need to have better legal advice with regard to employment and personnel matters. And so I'm, from my seat, trying to do what I can to get that in place. So that's where I'm coming from.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Yeah, I'd like to speak about this, Mr. President. I appreciate what you said earlier about the idea of making a recommendation or a memo to the town manager. It does seem that we, as a town, need to consider what our legal protection is and who our counsel is and how we're utilizing that or not utilizing that. I realize it's up to the town manager to make that appointment or replacement. I don't know how exactly, as a town council, we provide that suggestion or guidance along those lines. But I think it is time to consider that deeply and show the constituents that we're acting on this issue that is of great concern to many people who've written emails to me, spoken to me on the street, or on the social media. And I think that the direction that Councilor Engman wants to take us is the right direction. And I'd just like to be on record as saying that.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Yeah.
Councilman.
There's a way to do what Councilman wants, and I agree that we need a risk management policy, and maybe our risk management policy that we have now needs to be looked at. But I don't think we can demand who is going to do that.
Right.
I think what we can do is make a motion that we want the town manager to invest in putting together a new risk management and hire whoever he needs to do that, but we cannot tell him who to hire. We can't do that. If outside of the council, you want to make a suggestion to this firm or that firm, that's fine, but you can't direct him to hire a firm. None of us can do that.
Okay.
All we can do is say, we want this policy done. And then he has to do it, and if he doesn't do it, if we don't like what he's doing, we fire him. But that's all we can do.
So, with all due respect, my motion does say, sets out the policy that I think the town ought to adopt, and states that the council shall oversee the town's selection of outside employment attorney. It does not say that town council shall select or hire or retain or anything like that. I think this is an important decision. I think the council ought to be involved in discussing it. I think that it would surprise me if the town manager does not want to work in a collaborative fashion to, to figure out what the best fit for the town is. And I think the way my motion is put together, it sets out policy. It doesn't direct the hiring of a certain person. And I think, as is stated in the motion, we need to get a few different options on the table. It's not just, interview one person or pick one person. We ought to be looking at a few different firms, a few different attorneys. Get a sense of the budget, get a sense of the costs, what the qualifications are and services, and then we can all discuss that and see what's going to be the best fit.
I agree that all should be done, but we shouldn't be doing it. Our administrators should be doing it. We are not administrators, we're legislators. We should be setting a policy, we should be passing laws, not doing the administrative work.
I think my motion is in the form of a policy, and with all due respect, I've been in this seat watching nothing happen for a long time, and so my hope here is to make something happen.
Could you read the motion again?
Sure. Let's see. I move that the town, 1, retains an attorney who specializes in employment law to implement a risk management plan that includes, but is not limited to, review of existing policies and practices, updates to written policies as appropriate, ongoing training at least 4 times per year for all managers and department heads, and unlimited legal advice on day-to-day employment and personnel matters, excluding litigation, for a flat monthly fee. The purpose of the risk management plan shall be to implement best practices in the area of employment law in order to avoid future complaints, lawsuits, and unplanned legal fees. The attorney and his or her firm shall specialize in employment law and shall be different than the town's existing counsel. And 2, in order to identify the most appropriate attorney and or firm to implement the risk management plan, the town manager shall evaluate at least 5 attorneys or firms who would satisfy the aforementioned criteria and report back to the council at the next meeting with options. The evaluation shall include costs, experience and qualification, and scope of services, and the council shall oversee the town's selection of outside employment attorney.
That's where I disagree with you right there. That and the sentence before, where he reports back to the town council to review him, and then you make the final decision. That's where I have a problem with. I understand where you're going with this, and I totally agree, but I don't think it's up to us to direct him what to do and then report back to us for us to go over and make a decision. I don't think that's our proper way of doing it.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion.
Thank you, Council President. I agree wholeheartedly with the spirit of what Councilor Ingman is trying to do here, and we've talked a lot about finding compromise and working together, so there are some parts which maybe some people feel are overstepping the bounds of what the council is for, but yet we just talked about the spirit of working together and working together with the town manager. So is there some, in this case where the directive is to find 5 different attorneys to come and present to us, and can we build that consensus to say, we're all on the same page and this is how we would like to move forward? I mean, it's less about let's not dig in our heels of who does what. It's let's actually work together to find the solution. And is there willingness on for people to say, here's why we want to choose these things? Because I don't want to necessarily fund to take a look at this if I don't feel like it's actually achieving the objective, and wouldn't make necessarily a motion to do it if I didn't feel like it was going to achieve an objective. But it's an opportunity, I think, for people to sort of back off and work together on this one.
As I said before, I'm not totally opposed to the spirit of this. It's just the way it's written. I feel violates the charter. And let me point out, and I'll make some suggestions. First one is, the first sentence says the town council retains an attorney. Okay? It should be that I would suggest the town retain an attorney. All right? I think is something that could be there. Okay? And it could be the town through the town manager retain an attorney who specializes to implement a risk management plan, including those areas. No problem. I drop down to the third one, which says, the third paragraph, the attorney and his or her firm shall specialize in employment law. That's fine. But to make it shall be different than the town's existing council, I'm not sure I would want to exclude them. Are they at exactly the group that I would say should be chosen for it? I'm not sure. Yeah, we can look at that and review that, but that's a problem. And then the requirement that the town manager evaluate at least 5 firms. It's really, I think, that paragraph there, that's just say the town manager shall evaluate firms who has satisfied the aforementioned and report back to the town council at the next meeting. Okay, and leave it at that. Okay, and then the final sentence, the council shall oversee the town's selection of outside attorney or take any other action there too. I don't think that's possible. That's once again, the council shouldn't oversee the selection based on the charter.
Counsel, you willing to fine tune that thing and come back, or do you want me to just rule it out of order at this particular point in time?
Well, I don't think it's out of order.
I think it is.
I think you may disagree with the motion, but I don't think it's out of order.
Once again, I don't disagree with the motion. I don't disagree at all what you're trying to attempt to do here. I absolutely support it. But, there's that fine line between who we are as legislators and who he is as the administrator of the town. And I don't think we should be crossing that line. If we do it tonight, next week, or 3 weeks down the road, somebody else will come in and make another motion. We did it over here. Why don't we do it for this subject? So I just don't want to set a precedent. That's why I'm going to rule it out of order. Next item. Town fees and service breakdown. Is that yours?
This is another motion of mine. Would you like me to read it?
Please.
Okay. I move that the town council direct the town manager to review all fees collected by the town to determine whether the amount of each fee covers the costs to the town to provide the corresponding service and report back to the council by August 1st, 2018. The review and report shall analyze but not be limited to the following: staff time, supplies, equipment, information technology, capital assets, related legal fees, and any other relevant town resources.
Motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cerno. Discussion on the motion. Yes.
I thought that when they have, every 5 years, we have a review committee that goes over everything. We did this the first 5 years and we reviewed all the fees. Now, there was just another review of the charter that you were involved in. Did you review the fees at that time?
Not really. I think what my hope here is that we can take a look at all of the fees in the town and make sure that the fee covers the cost of providing the service. And I think it would require, the town manager and the department heads to really calculate, how, if somebody needs a building permit, how much is it staff time and supplies and equipment is it really costing the town to supply the building permit.
Well, we did that as well. We did that. We weighed the cost of the fee, based on the services, and there's just so much you can charge. You can't overcharge if you're not
Right, it
paying
can
for that service.
Right, the fees can only cover the town
Exactly.
costs.
Right.
And I know that when I was on the ordinance review committee for the 2015 round, we didn't get that granular with how much things are costing. And given the budget constraints, I think it makes sense to undertake this review. Given that we're already at the end of June, maybe August 1st is a little bit too ambitious, but within the next couple of months, I think it makes sense to do this. The CFO has mentioned a couple of times the need for better information technology, supplies, and software to connect the building department and the assessor's department. And some of these costs we're not capturing with our fees. And one example is when Chief Delahanty had looked at the ferry and the cost it was, what it actually cost the town to make the runs to Quincy, and had to go back and say, hey, we're losing money on the Quincy runs. We have to increase what we're charging, or what that grant allowance is to do that. And so I think that's the sort of review that we ought to undertake.
Is that a fee? Is that a fee? Or
No, it was just an example of how the town wasn't putting the proper value or the proper price on the service it was providing with the ferry, and so it was losing money as a result.
But that's a different category than
It's a different category.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
different category.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes.
Years ago, all of our ordinances had an actual fee in the ordinance. And a few years back, we changed some of those ordinances saying that the fees are in accordance with the town manager's fee schedule. And the town manager has made up a fee schedule, and I think it's supposed to be reviewed every year. So I think it's an automatic thing, that the town manager has a fee schedule, and it's reviewed yearly and I don't know exactly what time it's done, and I don't know when time Jim McKinnon did it, but every time they do that, we have to vote on it because it's part of the ordinances.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And my hope is that once we gather some of the data, we would, if there is a fee that needs to be increased or decreased or changed, at that point, we would need to make a change to the ordinance.
We are the only ones that can change a fee. Right, so-
She's asking for a study.
I've already started to work a little bit on this. One of the department heads already, saw this and started to provide me with some information. And I've inquired as to whether our student who we're using over the summer can work on this project. I can't tell you what my predecessors did when they did it the last time, but I do not have a problem going through. And I think even when I met with Councilor Lucerto a few weeks ago, he had expressed some interest in this. So I don't mind going through and taking a look at this and seeing how our fees, are they covering our costs? Are they comparable with other communities and things like that? That's, if you haven't done that for a couple of years, that's something. I don't know if it'll all be done by August 1st, maybe the end of August, or your second. You have 2 council meetings in August. I think we could try and do it for that.
Anybody else wish to
You
be heard?
amend it to September 1st, and I'll vote for it.
Yes, I'd be happy to amend my motion to
Please do.
September 1st.
Okay, September 1st. A motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
So just for clarification, she made an amendment, I'll second the amendment, let's vote on the amendment to change the date to September 1st.
Sorry about that. The vote is on the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Now on the main motion with the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good. Parks and Rec budget. I think we have a discussion about trying to refer that to finance. I guess the director wanted to be here to have a discussion.
Okay.
So,
Motion to refer to finance?
Second?
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Town council rules and procedures.
At the last town, the meeting of the Rules and Ordinance Committee on June 13th, beside the motion to doing or parking, the members of the committee looked at all the rules. Like, everybody had been emailed the rules just prior to our meeting.
Did you email them?
No, they were emailed by Denise Quist, because I don't do administrative stuff.
He doesn't even know how to use it.
Yes, I do know.
Because I didn't receive it.
No,
But
but
that's-
Denise Quist emailed them, and everyone received them. All right?
Tonight?
No, last week, maybe,
Maybe I did.
yeah, maybe it was just before
The
June
council president gets more emails than I do.
13th.
Trust me.
Okay. So, anyway, we went through the rules, and we amended the rules in quite a few places. And I don't know if everybody has their package with them, but we changed some words that just didn't make sense and they didn't read correctly. I don't want to have to read all
I
of
have a
those.
motion to waive the reading.
Can you just give me some tidbits?
Yeah. Tidbits. The wording that was in Rule 2, Section C, which said, other than amendments to no business shall be considered by the town council unless the item appears on an affirmative vote to waive the rule. Doesn't make any sense at all. The way we wrote that, it says, other than amendments to existing motions, no business shall be considered by the town council unless there is a unanimous vote of the council to waive the rule. Because it would have to be a unanimous vote, because any one person at any time can say they want to move it over to another meeting. We put in the open meeting law, executive session law, we actually put the citations to the Mass General Laws, Section 30A, subsection 18 through 25, into our laws. Under decorum, which is C, decorum of the public, it previously said citizens of the town will be invited to speak to the council during 2 times within the meeting, designated as public comment, for a maximum time limit of 5 minutes for each public speaker. And we decided that that should be revised to 3 minutes for each public speaker. And later on in decorum of the public, we wait a minute. Under section 9, we changed the wording that any person who disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise, they had otherwise written as 2 words, it's supposed to be 1 word. So we changed that. Under committee rights and obligations, we made a substantial change because our committees are not making reports to us on a regular basis. Many of the committees, so we've changed Rule 10, Section C, to say, meetings of committees may be called by the chairperson or upon the written request of 2 members of the committee. All committees of the town council shall keep records of proceedings, and a copy of said records shall be filed with the town clerk and council clerk. Each committee shall submit its minutes and a report describing its activities to the council at least once per month. Okay. Under Rule 11, decorum, we changed section 2. This is the general decorum section. And the change that we made is that discussion shall be centered on issues at hand, not on individuals. That's what it said. Now we wanted to say, discussion shall be centered on issues at hand, and personal attacks shall not be tolerated on individuals. Okay. Okay. The other change we made is on the committees. Rule 8, council committee said the first name member of each committee shall be the committee chairman. And we're taking out the word man, and it shall be the committee chair. Under special committees, which we have a few of, we changed some of the wording in the technology committee. It used to say technology committee composed of 5 members for staggered 3-year terms, and the MIS director shall be an ex officio member of said committee. We're changing it to technology committee composed of 5 members with education, training, or experience in information technology, so that there is some description of who should be appointed to that. We're also, under the committees that we have never actually put the EDAC committee into the special committees that are under our rules, nor the transportation committee. So they just seem to be floating out there without any direction, and they're not under the rules of the town council. So we're adding those 2 committees as committee F and G under special committees of the town council. Those are all the changes. The rest is basically the same. Denise has had this. She wanted to see how we voted on it before she printed it out again and sent it to everybody. So I would ask that,
Could you repeat them then?
I would make a motion that the town council approve the changes made to the rules by the Rules and Ordinance Committee, which consisted of myself, Councilor Eggman, and Councilor Conti.
A motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion on the motion. Yes.
Go ahead.
Mike has some
Go ahead.
discussion.
Go ahead, Michael.
So just the rule for public comment as far as changing it down to 3 minutes, is that, are we gonna consider that in total? Or are we gonna say that's 3 minutes at any given time? Because we have times when people come on multiple
is it
times.
3 minutes per subject matter? So you probably should make it pretty specific.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that,
Good point.
Something will come up at the beginning of a meeting, someone will speak for 3 minutes on it. Does that disallow them at the end of the meeting to get up again and speak about something
Public
discussed?
comment session. I would assume it would be 3 minutes at each public comment session.
If I may, what I think would be really helpful here is to, and I've been meaning to do this and haven't done it yet, is to take the changes that we discussed at the Rules and Ordinance Committee, put them into the document as track changes. So it's like, highlighted in red where all the changes are, and then it's a little bit easier for all of us to review and comment on. So that would be my suggestion before we vote on anything.
I had a comment, Mr. President. Sure. On that same subject, is it possible to, some of the people come in with a pre-written presentation that they want to read that could exceed the 3 minutes, and that seems to be something that a constituent has spent some time doing and has given it quite a bit of thought. Perhaps the stipulation should be that the verbal statement could be with 3 minutes or shorter, but they could provide a written statement and submit that at that time.
Okay,
that would
I'm
elaborate
sorry,
on it.
Mike, maybe I didn't read the whole rule. I said we were changing it from 5 to 3 minutes, but the whole rule is this. Citizens of the town will be invited to speak to the council during the two times within the meeting designated as public comment for a maximum time limit of 3 minutes for each public speaker. However, the president or any councilor may request additional time for any speaker to continue if they deem it necessary. So it's not that, if one of us wants to give time to it, we can make a motion to give them more time. If the council president wants to allow him more time, they can allow more time according to the rules. We just wanted to I think we felt that we've been here till
Exactly.
12 o'clock every night.
I agree with that.
And
I agree with this.
it's, some
That's-
people get up there and talk for 10, 15 minutes, even though the rule said 5. If we had 3 and we had some kind of signal showing them what 3 minutes was, that,
Does this mean somebody's gonna get me a
yes,
3 minute?
somebody's gonna get you a
Yeah.
3-minute time clock.
Timer.
But
Yeah.
I think that's wise. I think it's a good idea.
And if that's
because
right up here in front of the president, he turns it over when someone's speaking, they see a visual aid, maybe they won't go on. But
They-
if,
they
if
know
the
they-
council president,
He
one of us
brings up a
wants to
good
go
point,
along.
though.
to
He
go-
brings up a good point. If somebody
Yes.
has a prepared thing, they can enter it, you know, as minutes of the meeting.
Right,
You
and
know.
then kind of paraphrase
Right.
it within the
Correct.
3-minute time period.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? No? Hearing none?
Do you wanna wait?
Yes.
What is the process for these? Do we need a public hearing and so,
No, this is,
No.
no, this is not an ordinance.
Council rules.
okay.
This is not an ordinance. This is just our own rules that we make for ourselves. We can pass it anytime.
You seem to wanna,
I would like to get this in a track changes document so everybody can see exactly what the changes are before we vote.
All right,
okay, so we'll
So-
postpone it until the next meeting?
Yes, please.
okay.
Will you send me the Word document? You may have done that already and I missed it.
Okay, so we're gonna postpone the vote on this until we get the, everything in writing. Okay? Public comment.
I just would like to know what the timeline is now on the town manager.
I would say within the next week, I'll make a decision.
So that will be the process.
Yeah.
You will make the decision, and I don't want to say your decision is final, because that's not what I need.
No, I'll make a recommendation to the council. That's the way it's supposed to go. I have to make a recommendation in an open session of council, I would assume.
Right.
Yeah.
And we
You're not
can,
meeting next week anyways, right? You're not going to meet until,
We'll have someone in place by September 1st. As far as
Right.
the decision, I would like a little time to
oh, no,
think
no, no,
about it.
I'm not pushing you.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what your timeline was
Yeah.
now.
My timeline is always, I always felt that we wouldn't have anybody on board until September 1st.
Okay,
And that's probably what I'm gonna stick on.
all right.
okay.
So say, can we safely say then, at the next town council meeting, which I believe, I forget what the date is.
17th.
17th, John,
Yep.
you will have your choice made.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Any other further discussion under public comment? Just a reminder, Park Night, we had one, I guess, the 21st up at Pond Street. Everybody know what that is at the parks. They go to the neighborhood park. On June 28th, it'll be at Ingleside Park from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Good time for families to bring down their children, hot dogs, hamburgers, and good time. And the 28th of June, which is this coming Thursday night, there's the all-important Deer Island Fish Pier Community Meeting, sponsored by the MWRA. It'll be held at the Winthrop High School Auditorium or the Neil Shapiro Center at the auditorium at 7 p.m. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.